So, hey, Dom, how's it going? This is fantastic that your day off, is it?
It is, yeah. Yeah, it is. It is my day off. Yeah, I locked myself in one of the offices and closed the door. And you may hear some banging on the door to get in. I'm waving them away. I'm not here today.
Well, just imagine a day off in the car business, in the retail car business. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be great?
And you know what? It's not really even a day off. I still managed to close a customer today.
Oh, good for you.
So
Fantastic. Wanted you on the podcast was that as mature as you act and you look,
I
you
appreciate
really
that.
you
I appreciate that.
you are welcome. You started off really early in the business. Now share with everybody how old you are and why you chose the automobile business.
I'm 19 years old. However, I started as soon as I could get a job. So I started in detailing cars at a Toyota dealer. I had family that had been in the business my entire life. At the time, my dad was a general manager at the Toyota store there, and then my mom was a finance manager at a GM store for the longest time. And then before my family got to senior level leadership in the store, my dad was a salesperson.
So it runs in the blood, runs in the family.
100%.
You
My
great.
brother, my brother works down the street at a sister store to where I work, and we're all in the car business. We are all in the car business, Bill.
So what is that like around the dinner table when all of you are together and it's like,
So my dinner table, when everyone's there, birthday dinners, everything, nothing separates work. Nothing at all separates work. It is all who did this many deals this month, who won that, what was your average front end growth? Just some banter, but it really never ends. And I'm sure you can relate with your daughter being in the business as well. The conversations never end at home.
yeah, I'm rather lucky. She's in power sport, and you know that I do training in power sport as well.
Yep.
Certainly, when she's moved on, so I'm really proud of her. Purchased her first house at the age of 26. Like that's
There you
amazing,
go.
especially in this crazy market that we're in. And I'm gonna say this: it's a lot easier since she moved out. So I don't know where you live now, Dom, but it does get easier on yourself and with dad and everybody because now it's interesting conversation when you come home, as opposed to when you're at home, it's like, do we always have to talk about the car business? Do we
Yeah, you
always have to
sound like
talk
my mother.
training?
You sound like my mother. Right? And she's like, you guys always have to talk about work, right? And well, she's used to it, right? They've been together for just under 30 years. So, you know, when you've been together that long, it's one of those things, right? I don't know. I still like, even from when I was a kid, I've always been around cars my entire life. I think the earliest memory of me in the car business, like involved, I think I might have been like 1 or 2 years old. We had a convertible Mustang in the showroom, and I just sat in that, and then I fired it up, and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world.
Good
And
for you.
this is 2007 for those that are wondering.
Now, Dom, it's fascinating how early you started in the business. Now you're selling Lexus product, so a
Right now, yeah.
luxury brand.
Yes. So, for context, I started in Ford. That's how we met through a few of our mutual, I guess you could say, friends and acquaintances. At this rate, we're pretty much brothers. We spend the majority of our lives together, right?
Absolutely.
I'm definitely not afraid to admit that there's 12, 13, 14-hour days in this business for sure.
There certainly is. Now, for anybody that would be aspiring to be in the automobile industry, such as yourself, out of high school and looking for a career, right? Not even looking for a job, what was it like for you? Well, starting out and selling Fords, particularly, I'm sure you sold a lot of F-150, at least Lariats, and certainly Platinums. That's getting into a
XLB,
six-figure
Platinums, bread and butter. Yeah.
yeah, that's getting into a six-figure ticket. Now, for an 18, 19, 20-year-old individual, speaking to guys that are my age and considerably older than me, what's it like? Tell it, walk us through a couple of deals. The ones that really stand out in your mind, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure I made the right decision here.
So I want to highlight a couple. So I've had a few of your normal customers where, everyone considers them the lay down customer. Like they come in, they're ready to buy a car, the dream customer. I'm not talking about those customers. Those are what I consider my bonus customers because they're so easy. But to get to your main point there, Bill, there's a couple that really stand out. So um, this first one that I had, I think it was like my fourth day working in the Ford world, separate from my family, and completely separate, completely, against again, pretty much against my father's will. I didn't even tell him at this point.
You're
Um,
kidding.
no, not at all. He had no idea.
You did
No
not
idea.
tell your dad.
No, not at all. No.
Why? Why everyone's gonna they're that
So,
bad? You just opened a can of worms. This is fantastic. Why
so
would your dad not want you in the retail automobile world?
it's not that he doesn't, and I later then found out he's completely cool with it. I just thought he'd be really upset that I went to work at another Ford store
Oh,
instead
a
of his.
competitor.
Yes, a competing Ford store.
Got it.
Right? And we share the same first and last name, so it's like one of those things too, right? So
Well, I
he's
think you were so wise not going to your dad's store. With all
yeah,
due respect to you and him, it is difficult enough to learn how to sell automobiles well and to make a career of it than having your dad right there saying, "Okay, you know what you could have done different in this case. You know what you could have done different in that particular
correct.
scenario. You know what you didn't do right in this one." And I'm sure he is just as happy that you elected to do it on
Is
your own
so
and
we had this conversation, Bill. He's more happy with me staying far away, until I grow into like an F&I manager role, which is my next step. Performing really well, take some interest in F&I, and I want to touch back to my customers as well. But focus on F&I. So then that's your next progressive step. But to get back to the
yeah,
customer,
we got to
I
hear that
had
story.
people come in. I called these people off of auto alert, and it was like a repeat thing because they were coming out of their lease. It was their second Ford vehicle that they bought from our store, and repeat service customer, your dream customer if you're a dealer operator or a sales manager or a service manager. Um, in my eyes, I'm like, this is where I'm going to make it. So they come in, they both, and the gentleman, established business owner, he comes in, he's like, Dominic, you know what? This isn't working for me anymore. I need a bigger truck, and I want to keep my payments around the same. And I'm like, look, you drive an amazing truck. You drive an F-150 Lariat. You're looking for a 250. There's about a $30,000 price difference, especially if you option a diesel in it, which he wanted. And I explained to him every 10,000 is 200. Every 10,000 is 200. And we ended up, so he ended up purchasing an F-250. He needed it for work. And and one thing that I really like about working with you and doing the training with you, and a lot of people that will benefit from knowing this and understanding it, is building value and consistency. They're the two biggest guiding factors that anyone who wants to get into this business needs to be ready to face head on. You need to be confident in your ability to talk to people the same way, like, I understand public speaking was never my strong suit, but I've never done more public speaking in my entire life. Um, and I've been around the business my whole life. And then so it's all about finding the right vehicle. And it took some time. It took a lot of test drives. I was with the guy for probably half the day, which, as you know, anything longer than an hour, you're like, okay, maybe it's time to get out of my office. No, I took the time necessary to do the right thing and help the customer. And, it turned out to be a really good relationship. And since then, this is why I wanted to touch on it. He's bought 4 more vehicles off me. So,
Good for you.
so, and then another one, I had Ontario Logging Federation as the CEO. She was probably my most influential customer I've ever met. Not in terms of like well known, just on the knowledge and expertise she brings in, the level of care, and we chat to this day. She bought an F-150 Lariat. She knew exactly, her and her husband knew exactly what they wanted. And to have them come in and, they critiqued everything. They came in with the mentality, and this is the common mentality that most customers now have of, oh, I haven't heard great things, or, oh, your service department isn't good. Oh, I had a bad experience. I lay out my expectations right away. And that's if you don't lay out expectations, and if the customer doesn't lay out expectations, you don't have a linear path to success. All my customers get sent Christmas cards, very personalized letter, probably a gift card to the LCBO as well. Sent me tons of referrals. And you know what? I got to be honest, for being really young in my career, about 25% of my business is referrals, which is really good at this early of a stage. Where there's guys that even in the big stores, I'm humbled, honored, and no matter where I go, my customers follow me, no matter what store, what brand, anything, and that's the best thing.
Fantastic. Good for you, Dom. We talk a lot about that. The average ordinary automobile salesperson that sits in the showroom waiting for someone to walk in is disappointed this time of the year. And quite frankly, how much the business has changed following the inventory shortage and the pandemic protocol. There you really get the telephone call before you get the walk-in.
Yep.
And when the advertising machine gets turned down a little bit, like we do cyclically at this point of the year, when people are distracted with other events that are traditional to the year, then you got to have that portfolio of repeats and
Service
referrals and
customers,
network, yeah, to fill the pipeline, right? It's
your
all about
service
the pipeline.
customers, and I can't embrace this enough to any young salesperson. If you walk into a dealership, Brig, I'm literally giving the cheat code away, Bill. If you walk into a dealership, if you're hungry and eager, and listen very clearly, get a notepad. I'll give you guys a second to do that. So, this is what I did. You walk into a dealership hungrier than you've ever been, but with ambition and drive, you will do well. And here's how to do it. You walk into a dealership, you're dressed well, either in a dress shirt or a golf shirt. This is probably the first time you've ever seen me wear a golf shirt.
It
Usually I
is.
wear a dress shirt every day. So when you walk into a dealer looking for a job, let them know you want to work the service drive. Their service drive is their lowest hanging fruit, and about I think the average multiplier is like 65, maybe even 70% of them that service at your dealer aren't your dealer's original customers, which means they haven't bought a car there before. So you don't have to worry at all, that you're stepping on anyone else's foot. It's completely uncharted territory. You're in Bill's program or in any sales program,
You want to make sure you get through it, but budgeting your time, and that's all about personal productivity. But
and
there
that's
is
something you teach
also,
really well.
yeah, and you got to keep
Really
that
well.
pipeline full. So working the service drive through, you're right, is crucial. The secret is having a system to follow, isn't it, Dom?
Correct. So one thing that works really well, like obscenely well, I'm at a dealer that doesn't use auto alert. Um, so I find it a little more challenging to see, but if you're a dealer with auto alert and you need to ask these questions during your interview, and I'm not saying eliminate dealers that don't use it, but dealers, especially Ford dealers that use auto alert, you get to see what their payment is and match it up to a vehicle that we have in stock or a factory order option, which is absolutely insane. And it's extremely easy to use, user friendly. You really can't mess it up. It gives you their phone number, their email, their address, everything, because you need those things if you service with us. So you already have all the information. The customer already trusts you. And literally, I sound like an auto alert. I sound like I should be doing a podcast on auto alert, but
You do,
it's
you do. And
how I sold 20 cars a month. It is seriously how I sold 20 cars a month. So
excellent, good for you. And I couldn't agree with you more about Auto Alert. It is absolutely a magnificent, genius system, but you don't need it. It
no, you
will
don't.
be more difficult without it, and it gets a little bit challenging, but you all that information is stored in the dealer management system, the DMS, for those individuals that have been in the business for less than 6 months and don't really know these acronyms. And of course, we are terrible for acronyms in the
Oh,
automobile industry.
oh,
However, you can get away with it. And so impressed that you brought that up and pointed it out so that you don't need to rely on what the advertising machine is doing, either at the OE level or at the dealership level. And of course, if you belong to a group, then at the group level. And that becomes the biggest complaint this time of the year. We're not advertising, and therefore the front doors aren't swinging. It's like, okay, Well, that's only two of the six opportunities that are
Or more.
before us,
Yep.
and you can sell 20 cars a month without having to hover over the showroom and look like a vulture waiting for the poor customer to drive onto the lot, right?
I mean, I still do that anyways. but,
Well, they
but,
they are customers too, Dom.
but
Like, we got to go and look after them. And the first complaint that they have when we don't, even though it sounds like we're vultures, the first complaint that I get in the small talk circle that has nothing to do with the auto industry, just with friends, will be, like, how much do car salespeople get paid, Bill? Because I drove onto the lot, I got out of my car, I walked around through the lot, I even walked into the showroom. Nobody approached me. Are they that busy, or did they make money? I said, no, you walked into the wrong store. So come on over into one of these ones where we won't pounce on you, but we do recognize that second greatest financial decision you make next to buying a house is not made easily. So we don't want to rush you, but we don't want to let you just wander aimlessly. Now, Dom, you've shared with us two great scenarios that are top of mind because they're nice, great people.
oh, you
But
want to add one now?
yeah, for anybody thinking about getting into the business, or and of any age level, right? And I'm thinking for you, it's got to really stand out. You're young, you're vibrant, you're enthusiastic, and I would think a round 10 type negotiator, the assertive aggressive that we talk extensively about, would just love to get you because they think they could control you. What was it like with some of those hard act negotiators?
I am one of those negotiators. I need,
Good, good.
look, hold on. I need a piece of paper. Okay, perfect. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, if I can get you to all these terms today, I'm just to be very clear, I'm not afraid to ask for business. I'm sure you know this, but for those who don't, I'm not afraid to ask for business. If you trust me enough to hardball me that hard, I'm gonna ask for your business, and then we can work something. As I was saying, if you will buy today at all these terms, sign here. I'll go run to my manager. I'm not afraid to use the desk. Salespeople need to not be afraid to use the desk because if you are the one trying to control the number, you look like the bad guy 100% of the time. So
Great,
your
great.
best tactic is to use the desk. And as soon as you involve the desk, the customer magically ends up trust you that you're going back and forth and you're going to battle for them. And
Good
half
for
the
you.
time, we've done this experiment at my Ford store where I desk my own deals for a month, and I had managers desk my deals. I made more money as a salesperson, and I had better CSI the month I used the desk. And on top of it all, I sold more cars.
Yeah, yeah. Two
and I
heads are
won I won 15% more trades as well.
Dom, two heads are better than one.
100%.
Let's set aside our ego. Let's
Yep.
set aside our ability or inability, and however we judge ourselves to be able to close the deal and negotiate the deal. A fundamental rule that we talk about in mastering negotiation is leveraging the bad guy. And the
With
customer
the
should never meet the
manager.
bad guy. So the manager is not the bad guy. It's just, hey, look, can I go to the desk because my manager's been at this a whole lot longer than I have been, and that works really well for you and any other young person that wants to get
Yep.
into the business, right?
I just say flat out to my customer, I don't want to be the bad guy. I don't like telling people no.
Yeah,
Let me
and
go. Let me go figure out a way for you to say yes and for our team to say yes.
absolutely,
And
100%.
I find myself to be 30, and my ratios are pretty high. Like when I look at my stats, Bill, they're pretty high.
Now let's
Not to
back.
do my own horn, but they're pretty high, and my ratios get even higher the more I use the desk to support. So I encourage all young salespeople to use the desk. I mean it. I mean it.
Excellent.
Even a veteran salesperson.
Yeah, it should be everybody. Two heads are better than one. That's the only reason that we do it. That you could be trying to think of all the ways to put this together, and you present it to me, or you present it to anyone. You present it to even one of your colleagues, another salesperson, right? Say,
Yep.
hey, look, we're trying to put this together. What choices do I go back to them with? I don't want to go back with a choice of yes, no. I want to go back with three or four choices because when the customer has choices to make, they feel like they're in control. When they feel like they're in control is the customer focused approach to selling. And it makes them feel great about it, as opposed to us going back and saying, no, we can't do the number you wanted, but this is the number we could do it for. What's the choice? Yes or no? What do they choose 9 times out of 10? Because we're
No.
conditioned to do it? No, exactly. And Dom, closing is one thing, and that's great, and maybe a story will pique your mind. You can say, look, this is a really bad situation, don't worry about it, you don't have to dream it up, don't make it up, but share with everybody, because you touched on it seconds ago and I don't want to let it ride. You were never in personal speaking, right? You
Yes.
didn't do a lot of personal speaking before. Now, having gone through presentation secrets for the walk around, the demonstration drive, and the delivery,
Yep.
you know, what is it with how can you close a deal without ever presenting the vehicle or demonstrating it?
You
Walk
can't.
us through the sales funnel and the activities that lead to the sale, and how you learn to do professional speaking and presentations.
You touched on some good points. Like you really did. This is where I say, this is where I'd say you guys need sales training. When you get in the door, you want to talk to your dealer or your general manager or your sales manager, GSM, whatever the hell, whatever, the director of sales. Who cares? Whatever the name is, whatever the title is, your direct report. You want to say, look, I want to be here. How do I get here? 9 times out of 10, it's training, and the other 1 out of 10 times is effort. And for better or for worse, as a young salesperson, we get thrown in with no little to no training. I was very lucky that I was at a dealer that supports training, and that's how we met. And
That's
I
great.
haven't looked back ever since. It's been huge. But to touch on that, Bill, it's hard. So my process, as I said, you need to be consistent. Always meet and greet, and you need, excuse me, you need to find what works for you. Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, or hey, I'm Dominic and you are, right? Or hey, what brought you in today? Just normal icebreaker things, and these are things that you really do well. You guys, your program has really good icebreakers, and with having not been in public speaking, like in high school, I came fresh out of high school, so there was no college presentations. I was a COVID high schooler. I worked from home. I chose to stay at home instead of going back to school my last couple years.
Good
I
for you.
stayed far away from people so my grades would stay higher. For better or for worse, I've always been an outgoing, talking guy, but there's definitely times, even still to this day, where I'm scared beyond contempt or nervous.
Scared
And
to
all
talk to
that really,
customers.
oh, customer, even sales managers, sales trainers like you, like my first one-on-one with you, I could barely talk, and I can talk my ears off with Bill.
Good for you, Dom.
So it's
Isn't that
all
interesting? Selling 20 cars a month, and there are times when you get a little scared to talk to customers, and that is the reality of it, right? Even I do so when I go out on the lot and meet and greet a customer, bringing them into the sales funnel. They're in the high level portion, the really wide part of the funnel, right? It's the activities that lead to the sale when we can sequentially take them through it, which consequently is getting to know them and befriend them, and where they bestow upon us that know, like, and trust badge of honor, which is so great. But I find, and did you find the same way? And if anyone else there is struggling with their automobile sales and they're frustrated listening to this 19-year-old selling 20 vehicles per month at not at his dad's store. Everybody remember that. And the Ford store before that was not his dad's store as well. And correct me if I'm wrong, Dom, very quickly, you had to get that job at the first Ford store, right? Like that wasn't your dad stick hand deal
that
with a
wasn't a
friend.
phone call.
Right.
I contemplated working for my dad. I knew that we would be moving up north a little bit, and I didn't want to, at the time, put mileage on my nice car, which I then sold and put money in the bank because I had some great people in my life, separate from my family, that are like, "What the hell are you doing? Why'd you tie up so much money in a car?" And I'm like, You're right. So when I look at my bank account now, I smile and I'm like, you know what? Every time I open it, you feel better when you know you're flush, especially when you're going into slow season. And that's something we can touch on later. Because I personally don't believe in slow season. You make your own business.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. All the time. Anybody will trade in for newer, faster, shinier, the latest and greatest technology with better fuel economy,
No
protected by
matter
a
what
factory
time of
warranty
year.
if they knew how affordable it was, right?
100%.
So we just have to go out and find those people. That's what fills your pipeline. And we're not
Yep.
talking about doing shotgun advertising here and just reeling people in on ridiculously low prices and no gross deals. That happens. There are times of the year when we need to do that and liquidate inventory, but for the majority of the time, let's bring in the people who really want to buy, who aren't necessarily influenced by advertising. Anyhow, off on a tangent. Let's come
You're
back
right.
to
I totally get where you're coming from. I see it
excellent.
the same way as you. Exact same way. January, February, March, you're clearing out your previous year's inventory. After that, it's in our case 2025s that we'll be mainly selling, and then on top of that, you're consistently selling a bit of 24s and a bit of 25s until that April May area, and then you're straight flush 25s all the way until November mid December, at least in the domestic world when things get delivered, and then the rest are going to be 26. So um, I don't know. There's so many things about this business that I could cover.
Someone listening to this of any age, doesn't matter whether they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s, I find that a lot of people's greatest concern with selling automobiles is learning the product. Take us through how you've come to
Well,
learn the
it
Lexus
helped that
product.
I grew up in the Ford world.
Yeah,
It really did help. I've always been a Ford guy through and through.
but take us through now that you've been at Lexus for a while. Go back to those early days when you made the transition and you're like, oh no, I'm starting over again. And really, is it starting over again? Are some of the features similar? Like, for instance, every car has rubber tires and generally aluminum wheels. Maybe the odd one, especially winter wheels, might be steel. But
Even then, they're mainly alloys now.
yeah, and it's shiny paint and windows and locks, cruise, tilt, and air. But there are some proprietary features that Lexus would probably have over any other brand out there. How did you get comfortable quickly being able to go to those customers when you might have been a little bit nervous? How'd you get comfortable with the product, knowing full well that you
So,
could build the value bridge and help them make this decision?
so there are some core principles in the Toyota and Lexus brand that I love. A lot of the clients in the Lexus world aren't buying because of price, and that's another thing we can touch on too. I couldn't wrap my head around this for the first probably 6 months of doing my job in this business that price doesn't sell cars. Prices don't at all. It's a portion of it, but it isn't the sale. And again, I like to refer to Sean again, but also my father, because he's also helped embed this into my head. Prices do not sell cars. I remember sitting in his office, Sean's office. He's like, Dominic, I swear one more time, if you say you need to present something with this discount right away because they said they want their budget to be around this, I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to shoot you. Shut up. Take the paperwork. Sell the car. I taught you what to do. Shut up. Do it. Get out of my office. And he'd stand up and push me out of his office. And I'd go back, and 9 out of 10 times after that discussion, this is something that happened once or twice a week, just because I couldn't get it in my head. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it because I'm such a numbers guy myself.
Well, when you think about the consumer and how they're buying the automobile, it's easy to understand why price never sells it because number one, they've transcended that process, which is thinking about buying the one that they want. But before they ever get to the price, they talk it over with someone who will support their decision. So, for instance, if I knew nothing about automobiles and thought to myself, I need to get an automobile, and the only name that I've ever heard of is Lamborghini, if I go to
Yeah,
my closest friend, father, relative, mother, grandparent, neighbor, coworker, and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about buying a Lamborghini," they'll probably share with me what they cost and advise me against doing so because in the northern 48 and in Canada, that's probably not a great winter driving car. So even if they did support the decision, everybody goes to the internet, don't they?
100%. Oh, half the time your customers know more about the car than you do.
So what does
So
the internet tell them?
everything, price, options,
Bingo. There's the price right there,
everything.
right?
Yeah.
That is why price doesn't sell cars. And that's what I don't think a lot of automobile salespeople, average ordinary automobile salespeople don't get. They don't like the statement price never sells car. They're like, no, that's ridiculous. Everybody that has ever purchased from me, that was the greatest stumbling block. And it is because it's such a significant purchase, second greatest financial decision we make next to buying a house. So they know what the price is. The next step that they do is go and see it where they can't buy it, which would be an auto show or a parking lot, or again, speak to maybe a coworker that has one, or as it happened to me with Mercedes-Benz, some guy stopped me in the Home Depot parking lot and said, "Hey, is that the new S-Class?" And of course, we had a great conversation about it. I was doing the training at the time for it. Then once they've decided that that is the right vehicle for them, now they walk in to see us at the automobile dealership. That is the reason
Yep.
why price never sells. And not that you should avoid it, right, Dom? You don't avoid
Oh,
it. You have to
it's huge.
address it.
It's a huge thing, but it is not. It's not and never will be a deciding factor. So to get back on the gap between the product, the basic fundamentals of every vehicle: lane departure assist, lane keeping assist, radar cruise control, everything across the board has that now. Heated seats, air conditioned seats, heated steering wheel, dual climate control, navigation system, connected services, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, digital gauge cluster. Every single car out there now has that. So you got your basics down, no matter where you go. The value prop in Lexus is the quality, the build quality. The cars are stunning. The paint detailing on that cars are sublime. I walk into my showroom at Lexus, I'm completely in awe. One thing that Lexus does and Toyota that really blows my mind, and I wish Ford did this and tons of other automakers, Bill, is it depends. It depends on what model, but to sum it up for you, Bill. Imagine you put $1,000 security deposit back, so you get your $1,000 back at the end of your lease. So you get this. So Toyota Lexus World, you put $1,000 security deposit, your interest rate lowers 0.15%. And then on top of it, if it's your second or Toyota Lexus product, you get an additional 1.5. Like I'm leasing NX models fully loaded, $70,000, $75,000 cars.
Good for you. Dynamite. Now, how is the demonstration any different at the Lexus product versus how you learned to do it at Ford?
Exact same. You demo the car exactly the same. You focus on answering their questions and qualifying what their needs are. Lexus has the easiest way of packaging their vehicles. Their premium package, which is our base model in the rest of the world, has all the basic safety options, nice comfortable leather seats, carry on. Non-panoramic sunroof. It comes with a sunroof unless you get the real base model, the 250.
I don't think anybody is necessarily looking for a cheap Lexus. They may be looking for a great deal, but the secret's making them feel like they really won on this deal, isn't it?
Sometimes, most of the time, especially in the luxury world, and I've learned it is easier for me to upsell in the Lexus world than it is in any other dealer because each individual their packages are so well laid out. I couldn't believe it. Then we have our luxury package, which I'm not going to get into the F Sport packages, but I'm just going to stick to my main packages for you. So our F Sport package, sorry, our luxury package, which is right up from the premium package, get you that panoramic sunroof, nicer leather seats, and a couple other creature comfort things, maybe even a bigger screen, like a bigger nav screen. Our ultra luxury package gets you heads up display, and even nicer leather package, and parking camera, 360 camera, whereas on the luxury package, you didn't get that. And then when you go to the executive package, it's completely different inside. You get a different sound system, the trim's a lot nicer, and you get a little driving monitor so it pays attention to you while you're driving. And that's across the board. And then F Sport has F1, 2, and 3.
Great. Now, Dom, again, the audience listening is looking for the silver bullet, looking for the magic closing line, looking for
There's no
how do
magic
we get
closing
them to,
line.
how do we get them to buy? You know,
You
we
earn their
spent
respect and you ask for their business. Period.
yeah, and we spent a lot of time on this, and you picked up on it very, very early on, which is superb and
Well,
fantastic.
I
It's
just
probably
thought,
how
Bill, genuinely, what if it was me sitting in that chair right there?
absolutely.
I
So
have
that
couples here. I have couples here, like couples here the other day. The lawyers, they're buying an LX, $140,000 vehicle before tax. I wish and in cash, like I couldn't believe it. So, literally at Lexus, half my 50/50s cash, 50/50 lease, 50 lease, 50 cash. I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it.
terrific, terrific. I want to go back to product presentation, the activities that lead to the sale. You've got them in the funnel. When do you know, and how do you know, or what do you say that confirms they're buying?
Do you want to park it in the sold row? On my
Great,
test drive. On my test drive every time.
great,
Every time. And you know
great.
what? It's an even farther walk for my customer. Like we drive back into the dealership. Track with me. You drive back into the dealership. How is the drive? It drives amazing. Awesome. How about we go park it in the sold row? No problem. Where's the sold row? Keep going.
Pick any
Instead
pick
of turning left to go back in inventory, we go straight to the sold row.
pick any two white lines and put it between them if you don't mind. All right? That's the sold row. You can even
No,
pick the front of the
no, seriously.
dealership.
I drive them right to my sold row.
Good
Right
for
to our
you.
actual sold row. I walk them back through the service door. I walk them into our service department. I say, hey, this is where you're going to service your vehicle. You can call me and I'll get you directly in line with our advisor. Or here's the service advisor I recommend.
Yeah.
And my advisors love me because I introduce them even before the sale so they feel connected to the store. I walk them through our parts department. I said, here, when you get a stone chip on it because you love driving a new car, you come here, you go see our parts guy right here and tell my parts counter what color the
Paint
car
code.
is,
Paint code.
and he pulls out the paint stick and he gives it to me, and I walk back to my desk, into my office, sit down with him, and I'm like, awesome, let's get started. Tell me a little bit more about your trade-in, and we carry on through the process. So by
Good for
that
you.
time, I've already done the trade-in stuff, and I got all the information back. And if there's anything else I forgot to add, or just they forgot to tell me that I add to my trade-in disclosure, good old-fashioned car business.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a check and balance system. It's a win-win.
Affects the
It's
customer,
yeah, and
which
back
is
when I started selling automobiles, and I don't want to date myself a whole lot here, there were a lot of mistakes made. I created that one system of three phases and nine steps, and that very process you're talking about. I loved hearing you say it, walking through the service department. When I first did that, Dom, I figured that out all by myself. I took people on a dealership tour because someone said, Bill, you need to do a dealership tour. And I said, with who? And they said, with everybody. So no one had put it together for me. You had to sell the automobile, and when you delivered it, then you took them on a dealership tour and you told them it's a tour because that's going to be on the CSI form. So in the very beginning, I took them on the tour as soon as we got back from the demonstration drive, and the service manager, who was a really good friend or became a really good friend, I was at a cocktail party with him and we're chatting, and he introduced me to someone else. He goes, he's our top sales guy. And I wasn't in the conversation. I was walking away and I just overheard him say it. And I said to him after, I'm not the top sales guy yet. I'm on my way, but I'm not. And he goes, you have to be. And I said, I'm working on it. And he goes, no, 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 Bill, I'm serious. You must be. I said, why would you say that? And he said, well, I would say that because nobody, nobody in the dealership brings so many people through the service department. Like, look at how many vehicles you're delivering. So the perception being, concept, perception is reality. The perception is because I was touring so many people through the service department, making them feel a part of the family, that it's more that we're here to do more than just sell you a car, was that I was delivering all these cars of these people I was touring through. So good for you. That's the reason why that's in the system. That's the reason why that procedure exists. But isn't it natural Like, how does it feel for you and your customers?
They don't resent coming to talk to a salesperson when you deal with me. When
And I,
from the second I pick up the phone, from the second I sign a bill of sale, from the second they take their spare key out of my hand, we shake hands after the delivery process, and as soon as it's burning gas down the road, there's times where I go to my customer's house to do an additional product demo, which I take a comparable vehicle for what else they may be interested in too. I target my work most of the time. You come to learn these things, and you know what? Half the stuff I do, I learn from training. The biggest training thing, and I don't want to push anyone to get into like a sales program or anything because you have to want to do it. If you
like,
work really hard and you commit and you're consistent, by year 5, year 6, I'm actually scared. Genuinely, Bill, I'm scared to see where I'm going to be in 5 years. Very scared.
well,
Very.
I'm glad you brought that up because I just did a piece this morning with our private members Facebook group, the Auto
Yeah,
Sales
I saw that.
Academy.
I saw
Great,
that. Yeah.
great. And we talk about the planning, right? How many average ordinary automobile salespeople set goals that are
None,
achievable,
none,
right?
none,
And then how many have a plan to achieve that goal? Tell
none.
us about your planning process.
So I had a really great sales manager, a really good one. I think you and me both can agree. Your program aside, I think I really lucked out with who I begged for a job. I mean it.
Definitely. Yeah.
I mean it. I still talk with Sean every day.
Sean's
Every
going to
day.
be on here. For everybody that's listening and wondering who this Sean guy is, Sean is a student of mine going back 20 years. And
Yeah,
Sean,
no, you're bringing him on too?
yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely, 100%, because he is an inspiration, little different career path than yours. He went to car school, got his degree in automotive marketing,
I
and
think I think I will probably do the Northwood program at some point.
great,
Um,
good for
in
you.
between my transition from F&I manager to sales manager. And then
Great.
when I go to become a dealer principal or a general manager, I will probably end up going to the AUDM. Sit back in 5 or 6 years, Bill, will be in the AUDM or the Northwood Automotive Marketing Program by then.
Good for you, Dom. It's any industry, and Elon Musk said this eloquently, we don't care if you go to university or college. Just
Yep.
apply to the company. We will make the decision whether we will hire you, and we will do your teaching and your learning. You do the training. You rehearse it over and practice every single day, just like a professional athlete does. My goodness, uh, Wayne Gretzky would have learned to skate and pass a puck when he was 3. Tom Brady
Yep.
would have learned to run and throw a football when he was 4 or 5. Tiger Woods learned how to swing a golf club when he was 8. And the late Kobe Bryant learned how to dribble a basketball probably when he was 6. Those guys spent the rest of their life learning how to skate, run, pass the puck, kick the ball, throw the ball, and dribble the ball. Spent the rest of their professional life and then on into coaching and so on like that. So it's not so much an absolute necessity. For some people, it's a maturing process, Dom, and university and college is necessary. Both my daughter and son absolutely loved it. I love the fact that they went. I didn't force them to. I like the way your dad and mom are taking the perspective with you. Like, okay, you want to learn how to do this, then go out and learn it. I have a really
In fact,
close
my parents are angry at me that I didn't go the school route right away.
tell them this. I've got a really close friend that is married to one of the most successful business managers in Toronto. She's a six-figure earner. Absolutely a delight to deal with. Her name is Teresa. Her husband was a Xerox salesman from high school. And he went out and sold Xerox copiers and fax machines. And now I'm dating myself and photocopiers because that's what it was at the time. 10 years into his career, an entire decade, Dom, imagine this, and everybody listening, he decided he wanted to be a lawyer. And so he
That's
quit
a big jump.
and he'd made a
I
lot of
didn't do
money.
that actually.
He
Wow.
was a six-figure earner and then he went to law school. So don't close the door on it. It's not absolutely necessary. My mentor, my greatest mentor in life, my dad's best friend, Doug Leggett of Leggett Auto Group, and I hope I better not say exactly, doesn't have the education that I have, that his son has, that his both of his daughters have as well, and some of the people working in his organization. But my goodness, this is one very, very successful man and
And
has
success
created,
brings wisdom and intelligence too.
yeah, it really is. So
If you were to
great.
talk to me a year ago, Bill, I would have been a completely different person. I've completely changed getting into this. So,
Well, it matures you quickly, especially high ticket
oh, you
like
don't
that.
have a choice.
Yeah, let's go back to the planning because this isn't a plug for Georgian College, of which I'm a professor and also alumni, or Northwood, of which I'm alumni. This is, tell us about the planning, what planning you do, be it formal or informal. Be sure to watch Lee Wittick's podcast on stepping off the curb because he'll
Yeah,
share those details with you eloquently, of which Sean is well aware who Lee is. Lee's a bit of a mentor for Sean. Tell us how you do your plan. You want to go from this to business manager. So how do you plan these steps? What are the milestones before you step off the curb?
the variable department.
It's the heartbeat.
Oh,
And
100.
I wasn't just general manager. That was one of my roles. I owned the store.
Yeah,
And that was the oh my gosh moment.
yeah.
Right. And as well as the service and parts department, we call it the back end. That's called the fixed operations because it's fixed because it's very predictable in terms of its revenue and its expenses. The variable, what is what Dom is making reference to, is the front end, automobile sales. And that one is, I want to
Oh,
refer to it as a sine wave as opposed to a roller coaster. So there's
it's
ups and downs.
it's like a stock chart. My planning. You look at your previous months. You look at what you did year over year. You see your growth. You really just all I really do now, Bill. I use a forecasting algorithm. That's what I do now. Sales, my gross, the trends of the years it goes up. So I guess that's pretty easy for me. But when I first started, I was scared, very scared. So I sat down with Sean and with my dad two different times, um, and I just said, I think I can do this. I want to do this. I've seen people do this. If I try really hard, what can I do?
Good for you. Good for you. Well,
And that's it.
you triggered something for a lot of people listening and watching, and it was I was in the beginning, I was scared. Now I utilize a mathematical equation. Fancy term for it is algorithm, as we're all familiar, or some of us might be. You touched on something that was so important there that I was scared. And the fear comes from the unknown. And
Yep.
that creates the uncertainty. And this is the reason why we have such high turnover, not just in automotive retail, but in retail in general, because most automobile dealerships don't do training. And whether it is formally with me or it's informally with your mentors or coach or sales manager, as we would call them, or general manager in that particular case. And for you, it was Sean, unquestionably. And
Well, and my
you see
dad.
your dad and your dad in the background. You can't help it. You told me about those great conversations driving to school, listening to Grant Cardone
Yep. Driving to
and
school,
looking
listening
out the
to
window like, oh
this
gosh, we
morning.
got to listen to
This
this guy
morning.
again, Dad. Like, can't we listen to AC/DC or the radio or a
No,
million?
no, no. This
Great.
morning included.
Good for the two of you.
I
That is
know.
terrific.
So every morning I'm listening to sales training. Sometimes we role play, like a lot of the time we role play.
That's
'Cause,
training. I hope there's some dealers listening to this podcast because the biggest mistake that I see every single average ordinary automobile dealer doing, and this includes groups and the groups where you've got VPs and proliferation of management, and I call it bureaucracy, but at the end of the day, when those senior level leaders are not down on the showroom floor and
he spends time in the showroom at the sales manager tower. Um, he floats around people's office. He goes in, closes deals. The one time I've seen him truly escape is when he has tons of emails going on his phone. He goes to his corner office here, closes the door. Everyone knows don't bother Dominic unless it's life or death.
yeah, and that's just good time management. That's
Yeah,
fantastic. And
and
more than
and
anything, having that pulse on the business creates certainty. And where I see so many average ordinary automobile dealers get uncertain, frustrated, obviously want the golden ticket. Somebody walk in and say, I'll pay you this much for your dealership, hearing some wonderfully successful story about somebody else selling, is because they're not in the service drive-through and they're not out there on the showroom floor. I'm
yeah,
not saying you have to desk deals.
there's times where I can't even find them. Like I come in to have lunch with them. There are times I go to California Sandwiches, literally just down the street, pick him up a hot veal sandwich, his favorite, my favorite. I call him. He's like, yeah, sure, come on over for lunch. I can't find him. I searched the whole store. He's out in the back lot greeting customers.
Great.
I'm like, what?
Great. Good
Only
for
only
you.
him. Only him. Only him.
It's
I've
time
never
consuming. It's time consuming,
he
Dom.
loves
I
it.
did it.
He loves
I
it.
know it,
He loves
I
it.
know it intimately, but it is so great to create certainty under your feet that what you're doing as a leader,
Inspires
working
me.
with children who work for parents and didn't go and work somewhere else,
Yep.
miss a magnificent opportunity that cannot be gained at a later date and time in life. You are in such a magnificent formula growth strategy right now that you don't even know, by being able to get a completely objective opinion about how to handle customers and work in the car business. And you'll be able to bring that experience then when you do work for your dad, which will be very subjective because it'll be his way. He is the boss and he's your dad. And you'll be able to
Yeah.
juxtapose the
I don't
two.
know. For better or for worse, um, your dad will always expect more from you than anyone else on the team. It's not a fair fight. You're the number one target in the store, unfortunately.
Well, it is some of that, Dom, but the other side of the equation, and you won't understand this until you have children of your own. You guys are always going to be 20 years younger than us, 20 something years younger. And so you're always going to be little Dom to your dad and your mom. And it's not a bad thing. It's just the reality of the situation. What we really want you to do as offspring is when you do come into the family business and now have to improve it as much as you possibly can. That's just growing the business. If anything, growing it is sustaining it. That has been the motto for throughout the pandemic and the inventory shortage, and even before that. We want to sustain these levels as opposed to seeing any recession. What we want to see as dads and moms is you push back on our ideals. We want we want the conflict. We want you
And
to
the thing
challenge
is, when you're at that level of, it looks like you are being, what's the word?
challenging.
Yeah, no. It's like challenging your manager, right?
Yeah.
You just don't. They're
Well,
their manager for a reason.
it's not so much that you don't challenge the rules. Rules are made to structure
Oh,
society so we all enjoy living in it. And that's the reason why we love professional sports or sport of any kind, because there's rules. And when you don't follow the rules, you get a penalty. What we look for as parents and seniors and leaders is,
insubordination is the word. In the
pardon me.
workplace, that would be insubordination.
Okay, okay. So that would be bad. Okay,
Yeah,
that's going against the grain, and that
right.
could be
And that
determined as not a follower, so we wouldn't want you on the team for very long. But if on the other side of the equation, Dom, you as young people, you go out and you get an education as you're doing right now, albeit it's not formally at an institution, but it's still an education regardless, because you're going to pick up Lexus way of doing things, and you come over
that
to,
ties
yeah,
into
to your dad's story and you say, you're doing it well, but to do it great, or you could say, you're doing this great, but to do it outstanding, this is what I learned over at Lexus. And that he can't buy. He can't get anymore because, and I know how he feels, the hard drive up here starts to get so full, you don't have enough room to take in more information, or we don't want to. And that's what makes us rigid and structured in our ways. But you're doing it right. That's the bottom.
most.
I think it's fantastic. You're going out getting an education elsewhere. I don't know of anybody doing a podcast like this. My point is to help educate those just like yourself that would like to come into the business make it easy for them to step off the curb. Love that saying. That was, I don't think Lee had any idea when he just blurted that out how profound it is, but it's going to become one of the sayings of the ADA in this podcast. Dom, this has been fantastic. I bent your ear for more than an hour. You're wonderful. Just a
We
treat to
we
speak
could
with
have
you.
kept going. I can't even disconnect, Bill. I have to be here because then I feel that's another problem with this business. You just can't leave. Once you're in, you're in. You're stuck. You're never leaving.
Because you're interested and you like it. There's lots that aren't, and I really hope this encourages others to get really interested, really love it, get excited about it, like you and I want to dive in and spend all our free time at it, recognizing that our family still needs us, and that just comes down to personal
Even that, I
productivity and
don't
time
know. I
management.
don't know. I think it's just car business, straight car business at my level right now.
I love it.
5 or
It's easy.
10 years, we'll see where I am. I have my goal sheet in 10 years where we're going to be. But yeah, if you want,
Exactly what I talked about this morning, right? Short term, medium term, long term goals. The mistake of average, ordinary automobile salespeople is no goals.
it's not
Second
even
mistake, no
it's not
planning.
even salespeople. It's direction in life.
Everybody knows how important goals are, but they just don't know how to set realistic ones. They don't know how to plan it out. And consequently, they never see the fruits of their labor develop as a result of it. Therefore, the connection becomes goals aren't worthwhile. I may as well just take it as it comes. And that's what creates uncertainty. And that's what creates the problem. But anyhow, this has
Bill,
been magnificent. Thank you.
Bill,
Have a
thank you.
fantastic day.